Hello, Gene Schwimmer, and welcome back. Let's see, what shall we talk about today? Let's talk about the deal of the century. The deal of the century, as I'm sure everybody knows, that is the proposal that the Trump administration is working out that is supposed to solve the conflict, and I'm going to put that in quotes, conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And the reason I put that in quotes like that is because it's not really a conflict, it's a war that the Palestinians and the Arabs lost long ago. Nobody wants to tell them that they lost, and that is the root of the problem. I will probably do a whole video on that aspect of the conflict one of these days in the future. But I want to talk about the deal of the century, and I guess the first thing that you could say about this deal of the century, that it's DOA. I guess the best comment came from, we've had the Palestinian reaction to it, Mahmoud Abbas's reaction to it, and it's basically the Groucho Marx reaction. I don't know what you have to say, doesn't matter anyway, whatever it is, I'm against it. So they're already against it. And I just want to suggest that there is actually a better deal. In fact, you could even call it the deal of the Millennium. It involves writing off the Palestinians and talk about the real problems of the Middle East. And specifically, the main problem of the Middle East is Iran. If you've been following the news, which I do, there's been a real outreach between the Israelis and, say, the Saudis, and Netanyahu was recently in Oman. The relations between Israel and Egypt are very, very good, and it's all based on the same problem, the problem of terrorism and the sponsor of terrorism, Iran. So now, here's the deal, and let's call my deal the deal of the millennium, because I think this would do much more to solve the main problem, which is Iran. And then actually, if you eliminate Iran as a source of funding for Hamas, for Hezbollah, for all of these radical groups, that's going to go a long way to solving that problem too. There is a deal that the Arabs have offered a long time ago, having to do with their way of, basically what they said is that if the Israelis can reach an agreement with the Palestinians, that the Arab countries, the Saudis, the Arab League, all these countries, they meet periodically as the Arab League, they would recognize Israel and they would institute full diplomatic relations with Israel. Now, that's a good idea, but here is the deal that I think that the Arabs should offer. And it's very, very simple, and it solves all the problems. Israel has enough incentive right now to deal with Iran. If I were Saudi Arabia, if I were these other countries, I would make this offer to the Israelis. I say, if you take care of Iran as a threat, eliminate their ability basically to project power beyond their borders, if you eliminate their nuclear program, destroy their military program, we will recognize Israel. We'll have full diplomatic relations with Israel, full trade. We will recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and I mean all of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. I would probably put a little proviso in there that the Muslims would keep control of their holy sites, which is really their only interest in Jerusalem. In fact, you could even establish, say, the Temple Mount, where the Dome of the Rock is and the Al-Aqsa Mosque is, establish those as embassies, as, say, the Saudi embassy, the Jordanian embassy, whatever, because embassy is considered the sovereign territory of the guest country. So that way you could say that the Arabs would have a piece of Jerusalem, of Israel. But that aside, on condition, if Israel takes care of deals with the Iranians, then there would be full diplomatic relations with Israel, full trade with Israel. I would even have them go farther and say that they would finance the war. So the war would, as far as materiel and the finances, would not cost Israel anything. They would be reimbursed for the total cost of the war. And this is the unfortunate part. Some Israelis Israeli soldiers would be killed. You just have to face that in such an endeavor as this. But at least the Arabs could agree to pay some kind of compensation to the families of any Israeli killed taking care of Iran. That, I think, is a deal that the Arabs should make, and it's a deal that the Israelis should not refuse, because they would basically be doing something that I think they're going to have to do sooner or later anyways, because the Iranians do not show any sign of stopping their nuclear program, and the Israelis sure as heck are not going to let them acquire an atomic bomb. So go for it, Israel. You're talking to the Arabs already. Propose this. If you don't propose it, then hopefully one of my handful of listeners, a handful of watchers, is in the Middle East and could contact the relevant people and make this deal, which I think is a good one. And there you go. That's it for today. Talk to you all again soon, and bye.